Okay? So you clicked on this video because you want to know what makes women fall in love with you. Why do some fall so irresistibly in love while others don't even feel attraction, don't care about you as much as you'd like to? Is it just your looks, your personality, or is there something deeper? I've asked myself this question over and over again because it's very curious what leads women to become obsessed with us throughout our lives, while others don't even care. This is very intriguing, and I didn't stop until I found the answer, which I'm going to reveal to you in this video. There are 3 unconscious reasons that form a romantic attraction. Love is not random. Women fall in love with you for 3 main reasons that are rooted in your psyche. So they are magnetically drawn to you, not by your appearance, but by what you represent in their inner world. We like to think of love as something random, as something magical, accidental, but even that quickest, most fleeting attraction follows a logical order. It's not based on choice, but on your unconscious. It's inevitable. When you feel an immediate connection with someone, it wasn't by chance. There's something inside your mind that pulls you towards certain women and pushes you away from others. Each of us carries hidden images inside, which are fragments of who we are, who we were, and who we will become. These images are often repressed by us. They are denied, they are lost, either because it hurts or because it's humiliating. And here's the first rupture. The passion that consumes you most is the one that sees you the least. The woman who says she loves you intensely may only be seeing a hidden part of herself in you. And when your humanity, your flaws, your limitations begins to appear, she doesn't deal with you. She deals with the shattering of the illusion. From then on, what was desire becomes disappointment. What was admiration becomes demands. Because she wasn't in love with you, she was in love with the internal image you unintentionally activated. Have you ever wondered why she fell so deeply in love so quickly and then began to disappear emotionally? It's because what she loved wasn't you. It was what you represented in her inner theater. And when the stage of real life appeared, with routine, with mistakes, with flesh and blood, the play lost its shine. There was no longer a character. Only the human being remained. And that was unacceptable to the myth she created. But what if, instead of repeating this cycle, you understood the 3 real, unconscious, and profound reasons why a woman falls in love with you? What if you could identify each trigger, each resonance, each emotional trap before it turns into unhealthy attachment, dependence, or abandonment? In this video, you won't hear pre-prepared phrases. You'll discover what almost no one dares to show you. That the love she feels for you is, in fact, a lens. And this lens was built long before you existed. In Carl Jung's analytical psychology, there's a concept called shadow. Everything we repress or deny in ourselves because it doesn't fit the ideal we try to project to the world. The shadow isn't just the bad or dark side. It can also contain forgotten talents, dormant potential, personality traits that, out of fear or trauma, have been buried alive within us. When a woman spends her whole life being rational, controlled, always following expectations, and meets someone free, chaotic, intuitive, she doesn't just feel attraction. She feels a gravitational force pulling what was hidden within herself. And that's not destiny, it's unconscious resonance. This woman, for example, may never have allowed herself to be light. She's carried an emotional armor for years, maybe decades. But then you enter her life as someone who isn't even trying to seduce. You simply exist authentically, without needing to apologize for being who you are. And she feels a spark. That spark is you activating something in her that she herself had forgotten. It's not your smile, nor your confidence. This is what these things represent within her internal structure. You unwittingly become a symbol of what is lacking. And that's where the dangerous plot begins. Because the more potent this resonance is, the more she will idealize you. And the more idealized your image is, the more fragile the real bond will be. Because you are not being loved, you are being projected. And to be projected is to be imprisoned in an idea you never chose to embody. She is not seeing you. She is seeing herself in you. And when your humanity emerges, with its contradictions, flaws, limits, and imperfections, the illusion breaks. And with the break comes frustration. That's why the more intensely someone falls in love without knowing you, the greater the risk of subsequent disillusionment. because the higher you are placed, the more painful the fall will be. You become a bleeding statue, and that is unforgivable for the one who put you on the pedestal. Nietzsche, when speaking of eternal return, reminds us that everything that is not only happens, but repeats itself. And this repetition is the echo of the unconscious seeking closure for unresolved stories. When a woman falls in love with you with a force that seems supernatural, there is almost always an unconscious attempt to reconnect with a part of herself. You become the actor in her internal play, and you didn't write the script. How many times have you heard a woman say that she never felt this way about anyone before? That with you it's different, it's inexplicable, it's something she doesn't even understand? This is, in fact, very explainable. What she feels isn't necessarily for you, but for what you've activated. Passion is merely the visible symptom of an internal reunion between her and what she rejected, between her and what she needs to reclaim to feel whole again. The problem? You are not that content. You are merely the messenger. And as the old saying goes, messengers are the first to be sacrificed when the message disappoints. This idealization is not rational. It's biological. Neurologically, her brain releases dopamine when it finds a compatible mirror. It's not your status, your speech, or your perfume. It's your symbolic aura. You represent something. And the more absent that something is in her life, the more powerful the passion will be. Imagine a classic case. A woman grew up in an environment of repression. Her parents were harsh, demanding, and never showed affection. She learned to hide, to mold herself to be accepted. But deep down, there's a part of her hungry for emotional freedom. When she meets someone expressive, authentic, affectionate, that someone becomes the trigger. Her body reacts as if it's finally releasing years of tension. But this snap isn't love. It's emotional liberation, disguised as romantic desire. And here's what nobody tells you. What she calls connection is often just the chemical release of what she suppressed for years. The relationship with you becomes a battlefield between who she is and who she wants to be. But sooner or later, she'll realize she can't outsource her own growth. She'll see that what she thought she loved about you was actually what she wanted to rediscover in herself. And at that moment, desire can turn into detachment. Not because you were wrong, but because the symbolic function you fulfilled is no longer necessary. This is the biggest trap of unconscious passion. It positions you as the savior, but demands divine perfection from you. You can't make mistakes. You can't show your humanity. Because if you do, you break the mirror. And her reflection cracks along with it. That's why so many intense relationships end with phrases like, "You've changed," or, "It's not like it used to be." The truth is, you never changed. She's the one who started to see. And what she saw was no longer compatible with the fantasy she projected onto you. You weren't the ideal reflection. You were just a human being trying to love. Now comes the point that few men understand. The more you try to maintain this symbolic role, the more you negate yourself. You start performing what she expects, maintaining the character. And, little by little, you die emotionally. Because nobody can be a projection for very long without losing their own essence. You cease to exist to be what she needs. And ironically, she starts to love you less, because she feels she's lost the authenticity that attracted her in the beginning. This is the tragic cycle of symbolic passion. It is born as a reunion, grows as idealization, blossoms as fascination, and dies as disillusionment. And no one is ever to blame, because the woman who fell in love with you was in fact searching for a part of herself. You were merely the vehicle. And vehicles, however good they may be, do not replace destiny. The great secret? Recognizing this without clinging, knowing when the passion she feels is genuine, and when it is merely her shadow asking to be seen. The woman who sees you clearly, who loves your limitations, who embraces your imperfection, is loving you. The one who places you on a pedestal is loving the idea of you. She says she loves you, but without realizing it, she's talking to ghosts. The truth is that a large part of love stories are just reruns with new actors. And the woman who looks at you with desire in her eyes today may be unconsciously trying to resolve what was never resolved with her father, her mother, her first abandonment, or that adolescent love that marked her forever. And that's where you come in, like the echo of something she already knew but never concluded. What seems like destiny is, most of the time, just emotional memory seeking closure. Imagine this as an internal theater. The human mind records intense emotional experiences as if they were scripts. It notes gestures, tones of voice, physical sensations, small traumas, pleasures, rejections, and then it files all of this away as unconscious molds of what love should look like. The problem is that, throughout life, these molds become invisible compasses. And what seems like attraction, what seems like a deep connection, is often just an old script being activated. When she sees you and you speak in a way that evokes paternal authority, or have the same subtle disdain of an abusive ex, or offer the same sweetness as an older brother who protected her, she feels something. But this something isn't new. It's a memory dressed up as something new. Her body recognizes it. Her brain triggers the same neural circuits. The chemistry of familiarity takes over. And suddenly, she's in love. But not with you. But with the narcotic comfort of a story she's already lived, and that her unconscious insists on repeating. That's why many intelligent, conscious, evolved women still choose emotionally unstable, unavailable, dangerous men. Because a part of them associates instability with intensity. Because as children, perhaps they only received attention during times of crisis. Or because affection always came after absence. And now, as adults, they confuse adrenaline with desire, absence with value, and rejection with proof of worthiness. They believe they need to conquer someone to feel worthwhile. And you, unknowingly, can become the stage for this invisible struggle. This explains why toxic relationships have so much chemistry. The chemistry doesn't come from compatibility. It comes from emotional reactivation. The body recognizes danger as familiar. The brain interprets anxiety as passion. The heart believes that instability is connection. But deep down, all of this is just childhood asking to be rewritten. And the cruelest part is that the pattern repeats itself even when the pain is evident. Because the unconscious doesn't want happiness, it wants coherence. And if the image of love it learned was marked by absence, coldness, betrayal, or instability, that's what it will seek, even against its own conscious will. It's not looking for a healthy relationship. It's looking for the symbolic continuation of the story that was left unfinished. And you, however incredible you may be, will be used to try to finish something that isn't even yours. The philosopher Alain de Botton said that we fall in love not when we find someone perfect, but when we feel a comforting familiarity with their flaws. This sounds romantic, but it's also terrifying. Because not all familiarity is healthy, and not all affection is love. Sometimes what seems like a meeting of souls is just her trauma rediscovering her preferred way of expressing herself. Have you ever met women who said they were fed up with problematic men, but only felt alive with that type of man? Who rejected good, available, loyal guys and melted for those who ignored them, mistreated them, or disappeared for days? This isn't a lack of character. It's emotional conditioning. A reward system was programmed to associate suffering with deserving. Love, for these women, needs to have a little pain, or it doesn't seem real. Because that's what they learned long ago, when loving someone meant enduring, supporting, saving, fixing. And this is where you need to be clear. The more she insists that she never felt this way about anyone, the more you should wonder where that feeling is coming from. It could be genuine, it could be projection, but it could also be reenactment. You could be the most sophisticated echo of an older trauma, and in that case, what seems like a compliment. "I've never felt this way about another man," could be the harbinger of a relationship based on scars, not freedom. The tragedy of it all is that you can be the best possible partner, kind, firm, present, emotionally mature. But if that doesn't match the emotional mold she carries, you will be rejected, because her body doesn't recognize security as love. And then you'll hear phrases like, "You're amazing, but there's a lack of chemistry." Or, "I don't know why, but I can't fall in love with you." The truth is that her nervous system is programmed to seek roller coasters, not tranquility. She's addicted to stress. And you offer peace. And peace, for those who have only known war, seems too intoxicating to be desirable. There's a concept called excitation transfer. When the brain confuses emotional activation with romantic attraction. This happens because the same hormones released in threatening situations like adrenaline, cortisol, and dopamine are also present in moments of intense passion. In other words, chaos can seem like love, and true love can seem boring. This distortion is what causes so many good people to be replaced by toxic relationships, because the toxin is addictive. And you, who offer balance, don't generate the same chemical peak. You seem too safe, too predictable, too real. The solution? Never try to compete with the ghost. If you realize you're being used as an unconscious reenactment of an unresolved past, don't fight to be the hero this time. You're not her therapist, nor the redeemer of the traumas she hasn't yet wanted to face. You're just a man, and you deserve to be loved as such for who you are, not for who she expects you to be. A woman who carries a distorted mold of love needs first to break that mold, and that only happens when she recognizes the pattern. When she sees herself repeating the same story with different protagonists. When she understands that true love doesn't shout, doesn't hurt, doesn't abandon, and doesn't confuse. True love is what remains when the cycle is broken. And here's the paradox. You can be the agent of her awakening. But that requires you not to give in to the role she wants you to play. If she starts repeating patterns, if she tries to provoke you to see if you reject her, if she disappears to see if you react, if she tests you emotionally to see if you are like the others, the only way to break that cycle is not to play the game. Show her that there is another way. Not with words, but with your actions. If she wants to grow, she will realize it. If she doesn't, you will be discarded. Not because it's bad, but because it's too different. And in that case, be grateful. Because being rejected by someone who still loves pain is the greatest deliverance a man can receive. The human brain has a mechanism called self-referential processing. In simple terms, everything we experience is filtered through how we perceive ourselves. This self-perception is like an invisible code that determines what we accept, what we reject, and, most importantly, how we interpret the treatment we receive. And this means that when a woman falls in love with you, she's not just choosing you, she's confirming the story she tells herself. And if that story is marked by abandonment, humiliation, guilt, or insecurity, you will be called upon to play out that script, even if you fight against it. That's why so many incredible women get involved with men who ignore, betray, or belittle them. And they reject those who treat them well. It's not masochism. It's internal consistency. The woman who, deep down, feels inadequate, unworthy, or almost enough, clings to the man who confirms that vision. Because the mind prefers the known to the healthy. She doesn't fall in love with someone who values her. She falls in love with someone who reinforces what she believes she deserves. And here's where a dangerous distortion comes in. The more you try to show your worth to a woman with a distorted self-perception, the more she rejects you. Because, by doing so, you conflict with the image she has of herself. You become a threat to her emotional stability. And to protect herself, she will push you away, criticize you, or disqualify you. This isn't about you, it's about the cracked mirror in which she sees herself. But what happens when, on the contrary, you treat her badly? When you disappear, respond little, show disinterest, in that case you activate what she knows. And what is known becomes comfortable. Even if it hurts, even if it destroys. She starts chasing after you, justifying your mistakes, romanticizing your absence, because that fits perfectly with her own self-image. The woman who isn't a priority, who needs to earn crumbs, who has to fight to be seen. You become an addiction. Because addictions aren't born from pleasure. They're born from the relief they give to internal discomfort. And it's no use her saying she wants something different. Her subconscious is in control, and it wants consistency, not happiness. She might say she wants a present man, but if she doesn't believe she deserves to be truly loved, she'll sabotage any man who treats her with dignity. Because to her, that will seem strange, suspicious, too good to be true. And you, who are just trying to love, become an emotional invader. An intruder in a system programmed for pain. And without understanding why, you start to feel inadequate. You question yourself, you diminish yourself, and worse, you start to mold yourself. You start to accept less to be accepted, to tolerate disrespect to be tolerated, to remain silent so as not to be rejected. And when you realize it, you're spinning in her cycle, being the man you swore you'd never be. The question is, how to get out of this? First, by understanding the game. When a woman approaches you, observe how much she loves herself, because the way she treats herself determines how she will treat you. A woman who constantly criticizes, sabotages, and belittles herself will inevitably project that onto the relationship. She might even admire you at first, but at some point, she'll try to drag you down to the level of pain she knows. She'll accuse you, provoke you, test you, not because she hates you, but because she fears losing you to the light she can't access within herself. And then, something curious happens. The relationship becomes an inverted mirror. You start seeing yourself through her eyes. If she devalues you, you start feeling less. If she rejects you, you become insecure. If she distances herself, you feel fear. And so, her self-perception contaminates yours. Because love is viral, and a broken mirror cuts both sides. You need to have such a solid inner strength that none of this corrupts you. You need to recognize that the treatment she offers isn't a diagnosis of your worth, but of the worth she sees in herself. A woman can only love to the same extent that she loves herself. And if she doesn't believe she is worthy of respect, loyalty, or care, she won't be able to offer it consistently. Not even to those she admires. So what do you do with a woman like that? You have 3 choices. The first is to submit, to try to heal, fix, teach. This path consumes you. You become her therapist, and ironically, she loses desire. Because female desire doesn't come from help, it comes from admiration. The second is to mirror her behavior. Play the same game. Disappear, be cold, indifferent. This might work in the short term, but it makes you someone you don't respect in the mirror. The third, and most difficult, is to remain whole. Be a clean mirror, and let her see herself there. If she's ready, she'll adjust. She'll see the reflection. She'll recognize that she's falling in love not with a man, but with a version of herself she wants to awaken. And then love ceases to be projection. It becomes construction. But be warned, this transformation doesn't depend on you. It depends on her. Because the relationship is just a stage. The play is hers. You are merely the guest actor. And if the script is corrupted, no matter how hard you try, the scene always ends the same way. Therefore, the best thing a man can do for himself and for an emotionally unbalanced woman is to show, with presence, that there is another way to love. Without games, without manipulation, without emotional punishment. Love as a choice, not as an addiction. As clarity, not as confusion. As freedom, not as imprisonment. As truth, not as a projection of the broken mirror left by the past. In the end, you are not here to be accepted. You are here to express yourself. If in doing so someone connects with your truth, great. If not, move on. Because the right woman won't ask you to be less. She will see more. She will recognize in you the clean mirror that reflects not the shadows of the past, but the light of the present. What we've revealed here is just the surface. It's the anatomy of unconscious desire. But what if you could go further? What if there were a direct, practical method structured in language and behavior to intentionally awaken this desire? Not as manipulation, but as emotional engineering. Not as a magic formula, but as applied science. This method exists. It's compiled in an audiobook called The Forbidden Manual: How to Trigger Desire in 60 Seconds. A resource created for men who are ready to play on another level. It's not about ready-made phrases or seduction cliches. It's about subtle commands, specific validations, psychological principles of desire activation that work in less than a minute. Why less than a minute? Because that's the time the brain decides if you're just another one or the only one. If you feel that what I've shared here has shaken your perception, your patterns, the truths you believed, then know this. The next step is not optional. It's necessary. The Forbidden Manual is the bridge between knowing what ignites passion and provoking it with precision. It's for those who no longer want to live in unstable relationships, but rather create magnetic, lasting, and strategically guided connections. This audiobook is the logical continuation of everything you've learned here. But more than that, it's the leap. It's where theory transforms into action, where the mirror becomes a lever, where you stop reacting to what women project and start leading their emotional narrative.